Here tonight, and that I wanted to come and share a little bit with you about how to rid your marriage or your relationship from pain and hurt. Someone has said that marriage is like a walk in the park. Yeah, Jurassic Park, but there's always some challenge that we face in our relationship. And oftentimes there's pain and hurt that comes from that relationship. And I'm going to share with you a whole process of how you can kind of walk through that in a healthy way rather than just being stuck in the cycle of dysfunction and just, creating a lot of brain damage and hurt in your relationship along the way. And so we're going to be taking a look at that a little bit closer. We'll be right back. My guest coming tonight from all the way in the bedroom, and let me just see if I can get her online, is that it's one of the things I forgot to do is dial her in. So much for live streaming. Let's see if we can get Janice connected. So, but and so that's not working right away. At least I'm not seeing it. And so there we go. Finally. So thank you for your patience and forgiving me for my craziness. And so, Janice, are you there?
Yeah,
Hello. I forgot to
I thought you
call
were.
you. Say what?
I thought you weren't going to invite me.
I forgot to call you. So,
I know.
so, so many things. You know, you decided to do this one from the bedroom. You've been having a lot of back issues, and last time you were just a squirmy worm when you're sitting on the bar stool here. And so this time, that hopefully it will be a little bit easier for you. And now that you're in your bedroom with pillows propped up behind your back and just I guess it's kind of the Princess and the Pea type of thing.
Yep, I'm sitting on the bed.
So we wanted to talk about resolving conflict in a relationship tonight, and I'm going to kind of walk through a strategy that I've been kind of working on over the years. I've been, as you know, doing ministry. It's one of the things. When I became a minister, it wasn't like it was in marriage counseling or anything like that. Whatever type of training or preparation that they gave us for that was very minimal. And so well, we just kind of ended up being thrown into the deep end of the pool and trying to figure out how to work with couples who are in crisis. And so it took me a long time. Just a lot of going back and forth and a lot of trying to figure it out as best as I can, reading books and attending seminars and events. Ultimately, I ended up getting a master's degree in life coaching. So, and hopefully that has helped me a little bit to help other people with their relationship issues. How about for you when you hear, because I've been doing this thing about life coaching for quite some time now. When you hear about life coaching, what do you understand it to be?
No, I'm someone who listens to what people have to say and helps kind of guide them in discovering what is in their head and what they
Yeah,
really want to do.
yeah. A life coach is not somebody with all the answers. What a life coach is somebody who's been trained. Now, anybody could call themselves a life coach. That doesn't mean that they've had any training in it. And so, but I've gone through graduate school in this area. I have a degree in Christian leadership with an emphasis in life coaching. And so the whole goal of life coaching is to help people come to the discovery of the solutions through asking what's called powerful questions. And we're going to maybe unpack some of that a little bit as we go along here today. Hopefully, who knows what will happen. So at least if I invite you to the conversation, maybe we can do some of that, you know. So
Hmm.
how about for you? What do you think are some of the big obstacles between men and women, or for men and women, in communication in marriage? What comes off the top of your head?
I just say the same thing every time. I just don't think men get women.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. You know, and I guess I can flip that on its head
Yeah,
and say that women don't get men. You know,
yeah,
women talk with women differently than they talk with men. What's it
yeah.
like?
Because listen to women, and men, you have to make it short and sweet, or their eyes glaze over and they're not there anymore.
Some guys though are chatters. You know,
No, not
yeah, yeah,
a few.
huh?
I'm not married to one.
Yeah, that's for sure. So, yeah, you know, it's and some guys just kind of get into that flow, and they like to chat. Is that it really is, chatting is really kind of hard work for me, you know. Now,
Hmm.
chatting in an environment like this isn't that difficult, but so maybe maybe we should have all of our
Bedroom.
maybe no maybe we should have all of our marriage conversations on Skype. Who knows? It might go a whole lot easier.
Yeah.
So, so that's cool. So what I want to do this evening is I have this slide here. Let me just show it real quick. It's how to rid yourself of hurt. It's a strategy for communicating with your partner or your spouse when it's tough to talk to them. And you know that happens in every marriage. It's not just um, you know I guess the you can kind of classify marriages in the masters and the disasters. And it's not just with the disasters where there's times when it's really tough to talk with your spouse. That's true even for those whose marriages are going well and have a good relationship. There's times when there's pain and hurt in the relationship, and you need to talk about that stuff. You know. So let me just come back to this one slide here for a moment. So every couple faces times when it's tough to talk. What we need is an effective approach for resolving hurt in a healthy way, and a healthy way for moving forward. So we need an effective approach. How about for us? How has that approach evolved over the years? Well, you don't have to have specifics, but you know.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Man, you put me on the spot all the time. Okay, let's think.
Well, a lot of times, a lot of times early on in our relationship is that we didn't really have a good path. It wasn't like it was a lot of arguing or fussing, but I don't think that we had a good strategy or good path for resolving conflict. You know, would you agree?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it was bad. I just don't think everything about it was healthy. And so, how about for you? If you had to say, uh, what was some of the areas that we could have improved in? What would you say? Anything comes to mind?
Well, I know one thing is that I'm a stuffer, and so my feelings get hurt or anything, or if I am hurt in any way, I just stuff it.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that it's easier for me to bear the pain than to have to try to explain myself. Because what happens a lot of times, and not even just in marriages, but if you have a conflict with someone and you go and address it, they deny or like,
Get
you know,
defensive.
blame you,
Yeah.
or, don't understand what you're saying, or make a mountain out of a molehill, or,
Hmm.
whatever. And it's just easier to not say anything. And I
Yeah.
think I did learn that from my family of origin. It's just like, don't even go there,
Yeah.
just, you can live with it. Just take care of it in yourself.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. I think, at least in my self-assessment, now you might disagree, but I think that I tend to be a stuffer also. Would you would you agree
Oh,
with
wait.
that? Hmm?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. In my family of origin, that conflict wasn't safe. It wasn't that my parents, my dad was abusive in the physically abusive, but one of the things I saw early on in my um, family is that there was a kind of a threshold. There was a trigger point that once you crossed that it was just explosive. And
Hmm.
I have some stories, but I won't regale you here on social media tonight with some of those stories. But some of them are just crazy. So when you learn that conflict is not something safe,
Hmm.
or when you learn that conflict is futile, then you tend to kind of avoid that conflict in your relationships. But what I'd like to share tonight is an approach how you can open up conflict, or at least open up a conversation about pain and hurt in a way that is going to give you the best chance possible for resolving it. Now, I'm convinced that you can resolve any offense in a relationship. I'm convinced that you can resolve it in a healthy way. Now, it always isn't resolved in an ideal way, but you can always resolve your conflict in a healthy way. And so let's go ahead, and I just want to jump over to the next slide as we go through that. And so the next slide says that what we need to do is we need to use this R.I.D strategy. And I actually just came up with this acronym here recently, this R.I.D strategy on how to start the conversation and how to structure the conversation with your spouse when you've been hurt. And I am convinced that the reason why many conflicts in a relationship don't get resolved effectively is because we we don't start the resolution or the conversation in a healthy way, you know. So what are some ways that you've seen that do not work, in a relationship?
Well, just confronting someone, with, here's my problem and it's you. Uh, my favorite go-to.
Say
Um,
what?
I said my favorite go-to.
Yes. Here's my problem and it's you. So so so, so yeah, obviously blame, that's a classic
Hmm.
example of blame, is not a good way to begin the conversation.
And I think what I do sometimes is like I go around the back door trying to figure out the safest and best way to say this without getting a reaction, and
Mhm.
to be able to communicate what I'm trying to communicate. That I think sometimes what it does is just confuses the listener,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
than
yeah,
what I'm talking about.
yeah. Well, here, I want to plow through this so that we don't spend a whole lot of time on all of this stuff. But so here's the way to start a conversation that I believe is a healthy way to do it. And I believe that the best way to start the conversation is the R in this R.I.D acronym stands for reassurance. And so it's always best, I believe it's always best to start by reassuring your partner of your commitment to him or her and your relationship. So you can start by saying something like this: my relationship with you is important to me. Now, I know what's going to happen now.
You too.
So, this kind of only works if your partner hasn't heard the talk.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
because
I think the minute that you hear that, you
yeah,
know there's a but coming, you
yeah,
know.
there doesn't have to be like what Pee Wee Herman said in Pee Wee's Big Adventure. There's always a big but. There, there doesn't have to be a big but when
Yeah,
you know, is that because actually with the conflict that we've had in our relationship, I would say that that's true. My relationship with you is important to me, and there's no big but that goes with that. Um, you know, is that it's I just don't. I heard a friend of mine who's really an expert in all of this, and he is he's really adamant in marriages to keep small problems from becoming big problems. And the way that you do that is that when a resentment comes up or hurt occurs, you deal with it immediately, or you deal with it, within a good time frame, rather than accumulating that, and pretty soon you got this big old laundry list of
right.
grievances that need to be resolved. So my relationship with you is important to me. And what this is really about is avoiding, let me see if I can get myself off the window here for a moment, is avoiding a harsh start. And so too often we begin, when we've been hurt by another, we begin with a harsh start. And that's a sure way of deepening alienation and prolonging conflict. And so I know that for me, that one of the things that I need to grow in is my tendency to be defensive. But it's easier for me not to be defensive when you don't make a harsh start, you know. And so if we kind of follow this R.I.D pattern, starting with R, my relationship with you is important to me, and
Hmm.
and then move on to the next step, which is the I, which is intent. And so the I in the R.I.D strategy stands for intent. And after you've reassured your partner of your commitment to him or her and your relationship, then state your intent by initiating. Uh, in, State your intent in initiating the conversation. So say something like this: I want to talk with you about a concern that I'm having. And so that's important because it is a concern that you're having, and that I may have created the offense, but it's your concern. And so if I don't know what's going on inside of you, that actually hinders intimacy. You know, what do you think? How would you define intimacy?
I want to tell everybody who watches this that he never tells me anything he's going to ask me ahead of time. This is the first I've heard of it. How do I define intimacy?
A lot of it, I don't have the questions I'm going to ask all mapped out in advance. They just come to me. So what?
You define it, and I'll tell you if I like your definition.
I heard one lady once say this: "Into me, I see."
Hmm.
You know, so intimacy is when you allow somebody to see what's really going on inside of you.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. So, see, that worked. That wasn't that
Yeah,
painful. You know, I'm not trying to set you up on these things. You know,
I know.
it's just I'm just trying to work through work through the material. Things come into my mind. I try to ask the question,
I know.
All right, thank you. Thank you for being understanding. So, all right. So that that remember this, that if you want things to blow up in your face, then get aggressive, blaming, and accusatory. That is a sure recipe for things to blow up in your face. Or you can take a different approach. And like I said, your partner may be the offender, but you're the one with the concern. So own your own concern and start by mentioning start by mentioning your concern, not their offense. That in what ways do you think that that's a wise approach to take?
Well, I think it takes the defensiveness out right at the beginning.
Mm-hmm. And so we're talking about this R.I.D approach. The first one is reassure your partner of your commitment to them and the relationship. The I is state your intent. And there's actually two parts to the intent statement that I think that can be helpful. And one is, let me just go over to that slide, is that one is the not portion of it. So be clear in communicating what your intent is not. This is not an attempt to cast blame, put you down, start a fight, win an argument, make you feel bad, to be critical or anything other unhelpful or unhealthy motive. And so state what it isn't, but then state what it is, so that it's a not but. And so this is not about this. It's not about that. It is about this. And it's an effort for me to communicate to you about my concern, to tell you what's going on inside of me, and to help us to find a good way forward. And so I think if we can just remember those two things, is that once we've reassured our partner, then we tell them our intent. It's not to blame you or put you down or to be critical or to be judgy or whatever, but I want to share with you what's going on inside of me, and for us to find a good way forward.
Mm-hmm.
So that so any thoughts along those lines?
Sounds good. What's the D?
Are you trying to rush me along?
No, I can't see your slides.
Okay. All right. Well, let me come to the D, but first of all, let me just recap. So avoid a harsh start. Reassure your partner. My relationship with you is important to me. State your intent. I want to talk to you. I want to talk with you about a concern that I'm having. This is not, just about blame or criticizing or something, but this is about so that you know what's going on inside of me and that we can find a good way forward. And then when we come to the D, let me see if I can click the slide here, that's really about how to structure the conversation or the discussion. And we're going to save that for next time because, we've already gone long enough on this one. And so it's not that I'm trying to stall or anything like that, but it is, I want to be able to give it a fair treatment in our next visit. Janice, I want to just say the one thing. I know you've been in a lot of pain and a lot of challenges and so on and so forth, but thank you because I'm a better presenter when you're on the other side of the chat.
Well, thank you.
No, thank you. So, all right, so that's it for tonight, and we're going to meet again next week, the Lord willing, if everything works out, and we'll have a chance to explore in details what's the D, and we're going to we're going to be talking about, we'll be picking up on this conversation about how to rid your relationship of hurt and pain. So that's it for now. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.